Reflections. The Image Virus, Part 1. Excerpts from Terminal Identity, The Virtual Subject in Postmodern Science Fiction, by Scott Bukatman. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image, and in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. Genesis 1:26-27. According to Marshall McLuhan, in his essential 1964 analysis, Understanding Media, our postmodern technological capabilities function as the extensions of man. Furthermore, the proliferation of technologies dedicated to information and communication comprise an extension, outside the body, of the central nervous system, that elaborate electrical message processing system. The metaphor is intended to reassure by fostering an acceptance of media culture as a natural and evolutionary state. Everything is now different, but there is no need to worry. It is also the same. The nervous system is constructed for bilateral communication. The brain receives neural messages caused by alterations in external stimuli and transmits messages to control bodily position and action. The myriad pathways and branches of the neural structure are dominated by the processing centers of the brain, to which all roads lead. To extend the nervous system outside the body, then, is to further empower the brain and to further centralize the individual. In McLuhan's view, the procession of new technologies gives us more to control. During the mechanical ages, we had extended our bodies in space, McLuhan wrote, while today we have extended our central nervous system in a global embrace, abolishing both time and space as far as our planet is concerned. This bit of postmodern science fiction is summed up by contrasting the explosion of mechanical technologies to the implosion of the media age, the reduction of all things in the world to blips, to data, to the message units contained within the brain and its adjunct, the computer. McLuhan envisions technological advance as a simultaneous process of projection and denial. A medically derived physiological metaphor dominates his writing on this topic. The nervous system shuts down under the impact of an overloading of stimuli. The brain performs a kind of auto-amputation to escape the sensations of irritation or of threat. The function of the body as a group of sustaining and protecting organs for the central nervous system is to act as a buffer against sudden variations of stimulus in the physical and social environment. Mechanical technologies such as the wheel were developed to ease the stress on the body, while the electric technologies allowed new protection for the central nervous system. To the degree that this is so, it is a development that suggests a desperate and suicidal auto-amputation, as if the central nervous system could no longer depend on the physical organs to be protective buffers against the slings and arrows of outrageous mechanism. Stress stimulates development, but there occurs a consequent numbing of the system, a denial of the adaptation. We therefore naturally come to regard our technologies as separate from ourselves, instead of more properly understanding them as extrusions of our organs and neural passages. McLuhan is a great believer in the unity that underlies disjunction. Discontinuity, as Foucault wrote regarding traditional historiography, is the stigma which must be erased. The mass media will create a mass man living within the intimacy of the global village, or, more accurately, New technologies will reveal the unity that is everywhere already present.
The global village is at once as wide as the planet and as small as a little town where everybody is maliciously engaged and poking his nose into everybody else's business.
With the extension of the central nervous system by electric technology, even weaponry makes more vivid the fact of the unity of the human family. New technologies necessitate a recasting of global political structures. The very inclusiveness of information as a weapon becomes a daily reminder that politics and history must be recast in the form of the concretization of human fraternity. That this will in fact occur strikes McLuhan as inevitable. Other theorists are less sanguine. Guy Debord clearly posits the media as unilateral forms of communication which exist as an intrusive force. Lived reality is materially invaded by the contemplation of the spectacle. J.G. Ballard has written, "Despite McLuhan's delight in high-speed information mosaics, we are still reminded of Freud's profound pessimism in civilization and its discontents. Voyeurism, self-disgust, the infantile basis of our dreams and longings, these diseases of the psyche have now culminated in the most terrifying casualty of the century, the death of affect." Frequently linked to McLuhan, Jean Baudrillard's writings on the media share his fascination with technological change, but this is always accompanied by a massive sense of the reification of power. Baudrillard describes, as Debord, a mediated and imploded society in which all power to act has been transformed into the power to appear. The world has passed into a pure simulation of itself. The media are an intrusive force which not only prevent response, but render the very concept irrelevant. Baudrillard offers from Debord in several significant ways which distance him from a more traditional Marxist position. First, technology is as central to Baudrillard's writing as it is to McLuhan's, and it replaces Debord's economics as the structuring principle of the discourse on power. Second, there is Baudrillard's rejection of the Marxist doctrine of use-value, and its consequent privileging of human labor as a fixed point of reference, in favor of a position which guarantees no rigid site of meaning, no transcendental signified. Finally, Baudrillard argues that power has been subsumed by technological forces to such a degree that it is no longer the providence of the state, much less the citizen. In Baudrillard's imploded universe, power, as wielded by humans, has itself become a simulation. If it is possible at last to talk with such definitive understanding about power, sexuality, the body, and discipline, even down to their most delicate metamorphosis, it is because at some point all this is here and now over with. Resistance or response are irrelevant because there is no one to respond to. The media are invading. There will be no survivors. The usurpation of power by the new technologies of information management and control leads to Baudrillard's rejection of McLuhan's neural metaphors in favor of another biological trope. He begins by proclaiming that there is no longer any medium in the literal sense. It is now intangible, diffuse and diffracted in the real, and it can no longer even be said that the latter is distorted by it. The new in-mixture represents a viral, endemic, chronic, alarming presence of the medium. The dissolution of TV into life, the dissolution of life into TV. Invasion gives way to an image of viral infiltration. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Matthew 10, verse 28. This is interesting with regard to the historical reception of television itself. Lynn Spiegel has elaborated on early popular ambivalence surrounding the new object. Television would seem to hold an ideal place here because it was a window on the world, which could never look back. Yet, the magazines treated the television set as if it were a problem window through which residents in the home could be seen. Even the design of the early television consoles, with their cabinet doors which covered the TV screen, suggested the fear of being seen by television. Perhaps this fear was best expressed in 1949 when the Saturday Evening Post told its readers, "Be good, television's watching." Spiegel, in fact, goes on to mention a reflexive episode of a science fiction anthology show, Tales of Tomorrow, in which the week's episode is interrupted.
We interrupt this program to relay an urgent warning
By a reflected image of its own viewers, engaged in a tale of conspiracy and murder. And clearly, Orwell's 1984 effectively encapsulates the anxiety about television as an electronic panopticon. Fictions such as these foreshadow Baudrillard's polemic, if not his tone. Addiction has begun to give way to infection. The media are no longer the extensions of man. Man has instead become an extension of them, a terminal of multiple networks.
Television controls people by bombarding them with information until they lose their sense of reality.
The virus is a powerful metaphor for the power of the media. In fact, going viral has become a ubiquitous expression in our cultural language.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy.
Hi.
Okay.
You serious?
Till it's cool, just cool, into the mouth. Nice.
I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Okay.
Hey, bro. What?
Oh my God!
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Stop it. Get some help.
There is some disagreement over the precise biological status of the virus. Whether the viral form is an actual living protocell or simply a carrier of genetic information, it clearly possesses an exponentially increasing power to take over and control its host organism. The virus injects genetic material into the host cell, seizing control of the reproductive mechanism. The cell now becomes a producer of new viral units, and so forth. The injection of information thus leads to control and passive replication. The host cell believes that it is following its own biological determined imperative. It mistakes the new genetic material for its own. What does virus do wherever it can dissolve a whole and find traction? It starts eating. And what does it do with what it eats? It makes exact copies of itself that start eating to make more copies, that start eating to make more copies, that start eating, and so forth. The image virus is posited as invasive and irresistible, a parasite with only self-replication as its function. It is a soft machine. Compare this to Debord's economic analysis, where the pervasiveness of the spectacle serves the similar function of creating a deception for the purpose of regeneration. The commodity has become an actually real illusion, and the spectacle is its general manifestation. Images and their promise of the satisfaction of a desire are manipulated and controlled. The consumer of images becomes a consumer of commodities, as the subject becomes further colonized by the forces of capital. The coherence of the subject is revealed as illusory, indeed, imaginistic. Control over these images is elusive, in fact, impossible. The spectacle obliterates the boundaries between self and world by crushing the self besieged by the present absence of the world. It also obliterates the boundaries between true and false by repressing all directly lived truth beneath the real presence of the falsehood maintained by the organization of appearances. The recurrent image of the virus of the image, biologizes the waning autonomy of the individual in the face of the consumerist spectacle. The subject becomes a carrier of spectacle, of image, of pseudo-reality, without ever recognizing the substitution. McLuhan notes, ominously, the human nervous system can be reprogrammed biologically as readily as any radio station can alter its fare. In this statement, which foreshadows the appearance of Videodrome, a film by David Cronenberg which will be discussed in part 2 of this series, there is an acknowledgement of political and social control that is rare in McLuhan, and that allows a perception of the unasked question which lurks behind a reading of his works. Whose nervous system is this anyway? The media are the extensions of the state at the expense of the power of the citizen. For most of the population, then, the new information technologies represent intrusions rather than extrusions.